All right, I'm really excited for this day. And the reason why I'm excited is I've been working on something for years now, and I finally finished it. And as a gift, it's free to everybody. And the reason why it's free is because this will help you grow your business exponentially. By using this tool, you will see immediate results in your business, in your company, in your employees, in your customers, everything. And so what is this document? It's the business goal setting worksheet 5-step checklist. Yep, that's what I called it. It's the business goal setting worksheet 5-step checklist. And so the reason why this came to fruition was over the years, I've used a ton of different tools and charts and all these different things to fill out so that I can work with customers. I can use them myself. I can use them with companies that I'm working with. I can use them for clients. And it's to document all the goals for a company. Now, everything starts with goals. You have to have your goals written down as a company to figure out where you're going. And we're going to get to all the different steps of this sheet because it is 5 steps. But I just want to explain what the sheet is. So it's broken out into 5 steps. Each step has about 5 questions. So this is a hefty document. It's not just some cheesy one-pager. I think when it's all done, it's about 18, 19 pages. So basically, you have each step. Each step has 5 questions. Now, each question has an example answer and an example action, just to give you an idea of how to follow up on that question, how to answer that question, and then what to do with the answer to that question. And that's really good because I've seen so many tools where they go, hey, here's a sheet you can fill out. Well, what does it mean? What should I be thinking about as I'm filling out this information? So I want you to really use this tool and define the goals for your company so that you can grow the company. So at the end of that sheet, once everything is filled out, once you got everything, you have an answer and an action for each question. And for each of those 5 questions for each section, then at the bottom of the sheet, I have actions. And that's where you get to prioritize all your actions, your goals and your actions. You can say, hey, these are the ones I'm going to do first. And then you get to assign them to somebody in your organization, whether that's you or somebody else. And then you get to track them over the next 4 quarters, so that you can see the progress and then you can make adjustments along the way. So let's start talking about what the 5 steps are. So again, this is the business goal setting worksheet 5-step checklist. Now, the first step is called vision and purpose. So many companies, they basically don't have a vision and a purpose. Now, that's understandable. Companies, sometimes when they start out, what's happening is they're just creating a job for themselves. Maybe it started out as an individual and then all of a sudden they just get going. Maybe they're just so busy they just haven't done it. But it's really important to create a vision and purpose for many reasons. Number one, it's how you stay competitive. Right now, there's so many companies that do similar things. It's so nuanced. The only thing that's kind of makes you stick out, and you hear this a lot, is your brand, your vision, and your purpose. And so you need to promote that. They kind of wrap that sometimes under the branding, but under your vision and purpose should be what your company is, where you want to go, why you exist. Another reason you want to have a vision and purpose is to kind of create culture within your company. You're all going to the same place. You're all focusing in the same area. And what that does is it also helps with burnout because now people know why they're getting up and coming to work every day. They're making a difference. And that's what your vision and purpose does. It's not just about, oh, well, hey, we show up and we're just trying to make money. No, you want something that's more focused on your customers' needs, changing the world, what kind of impact. So under vision and purpose, the areas that we're going to cover for the goals, you're talking about your purpose goals, right? Your aspirations goals, like what do you aspire to be? What are some of the goals that you have around the company in 1, 3, and 5 years? So that's the vision part, right? And then what are your ideal customer that you want to focus on? So that's where you get to have those goals and those conversations. If that's not where your customer is now, what are some of the goals we can set and actions to kind of focus on the customer that we really want? And then what is the impact that you want your organization to have? And what are the goals that we can try to do? So for example, if you are trying to make sure that company eventually has a really strong impact in a certain industry, this is where you identify the goals for that. So that would be step one. In step two, we're going to be talking about the financial health and profitability of the business. So we're going to set goals around that. We're going to look at revenue streams. What are all the different areas that you make money? And you have to list those and then prioritize those. The next thing is, what are the margin of those products? You might have a product that you sell a lot of, but there might be a lot of overhead with that product. The margin is not that big. So we want to focus on different products for different ideas or different seasons. It's okay if a product doesn't have a ton of margin, but you got to make money on it. It has to work and make it so that the costs associated with that product don't outweigh the profit. And then we want to talk about the revenue goals. So where do you want to be next month or the next year or the next quarter? These are all the different things that you have to have, and you have to create goals around those. And then what are the goals around cash flow? So how much money does it take to run your business? How much cash flow should you have every month? You should have a high amount. You should have, this is how much we need to make because we need to have this much profit, and these are our expenses. So we'll need to create goals around that. And then of course costs. That's your overhead. What are the costs associated to run the business? If our goals are to keep costs low, then we need to define what those goals are. So that would be step two. So step three is customer acquisition and retention. So creating goals around how you focus and get your customers. And you might have areas where you get your customers right now, and that may change. You may say, well, we get a lot of our customers from advertising, and that's not sustainable. It's really expensive. We want to do a more organic approach. Totally fine. So what are those top 3 channels that we're going to be focusing on and get those customers? And if we need to move into a new channel, we create goals and actions around that. So then after that, we look at your customer acquisition costs. So what are all the costs associated with acquiring a new customer? If you're spending time on advertising, you're paying people to make phone calls, all that is overhead. So you need to take that into consideration. If you're paying someone to make a bunch of phone calls and all of a sudden they come, that costs you a certain amount of money, and then finally you get that customer coming in, but when it's all said and done, you may not make a high percentage of profit on that customer. So you really have to look at what those costs are. That's why customer acquisition costs. So the next one is, customer lifetime value. The customer lifetime value, we need to create goals around that. What are some of the ways we can create that customer, that lifetime value of that customer? What are some of the things we can continue to reach out for them for? What is that value if we keep coming back and we have products and services? Do we need to develop new products? How do we keep connecting with that customer, over the years? And then of course, again, this kind of bleeds into retention. What do customers need? What are the goals for your customer need to be able to keep coming back to your organization to again and again, because that's how you get repeat business, and you don't just want a product or service that they use one and then they're done. You want to create a relationship with that customer, because at the same time, it may not be that customer that comes back right away, but maybe they're friends. So you want to think about that. That's the retention. And then, the last part of that goal setting for customer service, for step 3 is customer service success. So you want to talk about, what does success look like for customer service? So if we do a lot of work for our customers and they're satisfied, what does customer service success look like? So you want to create goals and actions around that. So if you're not there yet, you need to create goals and say, okay, these are some of the things that we need to create for our customer. One of the things that I've always said with customer service is, wouldn't it be, instead of waiting for them to call us and complain, contact them beforehand and saying, hey, you just purchased our product and service. How did that go? How did everything, work out for you? So being more proactive than reactive. So going to step 4, that's where we're going to talk about internal processes and efficiency. So this is creating goals around how your organization works. We want to find out, how's your company working? if it's not working, what kind of changes do we need to make? And what are some goals around that to make it better, right? So we want to figure out where are some of the bottlenecks around that company. Let's create some goals to fix those and some actions, some tasks and some steps to address whether those bottlenecks are. And then of course, what are the top areas of the company? We need to figure out, okay, we have these areas of the company that aren't performing well. These are the ones we're going to tackle first. And those are the goals and actions around those top areas. And then what about team productivity? We have different team members in our organization. How are they doing? Do we have the right people in the right spots? Do we need to make some changes? Things like that. The next thing is we also want to talk about technology. Do we have the right technology that we're using that our people are using to help run the business? So those are some additional things you want to think about when with regards to internal processes and efficiency. If you're using tools that take too much time, or they're a lot of work, or they're outdated, you want to update and create goals around that and actions to achieve those goals. And then last thing is KPI. KPIs, you heard me talk about that again and again. KPI is the measurement tool, the metric that we're using that helps us define success. So for example, if our customer acquisition cost is, hey, it's $100, but we sell a product for 50, then that's the customer acquisition cost is a KPI that we know that we can look at and measure, and we can say, okay, that's not going to work for us. We got to figure out a different way or a different product or get it for cheaper or what have you. So that's step 4, the internal process and efficiency. Now, step 5, the final step, is team development and leadership. Okay. So, we talked a little bit about team productivity in step 4. Team development and leadership, again, this is all about culture. What are some goals around culture? Do you have a team that works together? Are they in sync? Is there some synchronicity there? Are you guys all focused on going in the same direction with your vision and your purpose? So creating goals around that culture, and maybe it's not where you want to be. How do we get there? A good culture at a company means a productive company. And so we want to create goals around that. And then what are some of the leadership skills? What are some goals around some leadership skills that we need to kind of basically have our leaders or ourselves learn so that we can be better leaders, And then of course, roles. Like this, again, this is where we look at the specific roles of these people in the organization. If they are in the right spots, wonderful. You might have somebody that's doing multiple things. Well, develop a role that has a person that does multiple things. And so we can always define that or refine that later. And so you want to build concrete team and create goals around those concrete for not only where your company is, but where you want it to be. And then, after that, you want to look at the goals around performance. How's everybody doing? How are you going to measure performance? What kind of tools and systems are in place, and what are some goals and actions we can put in place to measure team performance? And then hiring. You get to hiring and you say, all right, well, we want to grow the company. We're going to need some more people. We're going to need some more salespeople. We're going to need some more marketing people. Maybe we might need some more service people or customer service people, project managers to handle that volume. So you need to create goals around when do you need that person? How long is it going to train them? How long is it going to take to get them up to speed? Those are all things you need to start considering with creating goals around your organization. Now, and then at the end, this is what we talked about before, what I mentioned in the beginning. We're going to talk about actions. This is where you're going to be looking at all your goals, and you're going to take those and you're going to prioritize those, and you're going to prioritize those actions. And then once you have all that listed, then you're going to assign those actions to individuals within your company so that you can hold them responsible. And then you're going to track that every quarter, see how it's going. We made all these goals, we made all these actions. We're getting all this stuff done. We assigned it to somebody, and then we're going to put, how that metric's going or how we're doing. So for example, if one of our goals was to increase revenue by 30%, we could just say, okay, great, Q1, we're on track. We created all those goals. We created all those actions. We assigned them to, Bob. Bob's been watching it and he's been tracking it, and we have had to make tweaks along the way. Q1 wasn't what we needed to be. So here's some other things that we can do for Q2. So that's how you use this system. So this is free. This is for you guys. This is a way to track your goals. It's a fantastic tool. Please, please use it. I think you'll love it. I'd love to hear your comments about it if you think that there needs to be improvements. I've worked for years on this. These are all the same questions that I ask every single one of my clients. I think you'll enjoy it a lot. Thank you. Enjoy it. And please give me feedback on if it's working for you. Take care.